Hey there, everyone. I am going to post from the car again today. The signal in the Kohler studio where I am now is not very good. So before I go inside, I just thought I would do our last Parenting Tip Tuesday for 2018. The next couple of weeks we'll be on holiday break at the studio, so we'll be back together at the beginning of January. And I've so appreciated some of the feedback that I've gotten from you guys through messaging over the last few weeks as I've done these little videos. I would love to know what other issues are particularly challenging for you at this point and how I might be able to help. If you've got also some tips yourself that has been really useful for your family, I'd love to hear those as well. So maybe over the break, send me a message, send the studio a message and let us know how we can help you. We may have some special guests in the beginning of next year as well to talk a little bit about what has been successful in their parenting. So stay tuned for more to come in January, but I just wanted to follow up on last week's conversation on helping our kids to listen and helping that to happen in a cooperative way, in a calm way, and a really intentional way. So if you haven't watched last week's video yet, make sure you go and watch that first, because this is just a little follow-up on what to do if it still is not effective, if your child is still really struggling with that transition of doing what they want and moving to doing something that they don't want to do but is required by you. So what do we do in that situation? And there's certainly going to be times when we don't do things right, when we just gotta go. We need to get up and move and do something different, and our kids freak out and we hit the roof and it just all goes badly. And just be gracious with yourself. We all have those moments. Nobody does this perfectly, and try to do it differently next time. So no worries, that will happen. But there are also going to be times when you go through the correct process, you're doing all the pre-activity warnings, the training, the verbalization of what's required, and then when it still comes down to it, your child just argues with you and defies you and will not listen to your instructions. So what do we do then? So I have just two points that I want to talk about real briefly. And one is that this is such a great opportunity for our kids to start internalizing the concept of responsibility and that our actions have consequences. So when you are going through that process of helping your kids to understand that in a couple of minutes, mom's going to ask you to get in the car. And what are you going to say at that time? I'm not asking you right now. What are you going to say? And you're having your child say back, I'm going to say, okay, mom. That's what I'm going to say. But at that same point, don't forget the step of saying, okay, well, if you argue with me, or if you say no, or if you throw a fit and cry and whine, what is going to happen if you decide to make that choice? And that is really a crucial piece, because we want our kids to learn that consequences, their actions have consequences, and that's not somebody else's fault. It's not because they have a mean mom. It's not because they have a parent that hates them. Their consequences have actions. So when they can start to verbalize, when I throw a fit, this bad thing happens, that's my choice. That was my choice. That's just a really good thing to start helping our kids articulate. So what bad thing does happen when our kids defy us and argue with us and complain and whine? I believe that natural consequences are really the best consequences when possible. The consequence really does need to connect to the offense as much as possible. Not some arbitrary consequence or punishment, but something that makes sense to a child and to us. So my thinking in this regard is that if your child is really having a hard time transitioning from one activity to the next, like getting in the car, going to get their PJs on, coming to the dinner table, all those things are becoming really difficult because they're engaged in an activity that they like. I humbly suggest that maybe that activity needs to be removed for a short period of time until they have the freedom again, when they have learned to comply when it's time. So for instance, one of our kids really had a difficult time stopping playing Legos in the morning when it was time for school. When it was time to go to school, he just could not transition when he was engaged in Legos. So for a little while, we had to just say, we can't we're not going to play Legos then in the mornings before school. It's just not an option. It's not a choice, because you have not been able to say yes, Mom, when it's time to go. We're taking away that privilege. And then we start practicing again what it means to say yes, Mom. And we practice at times when it's not required. I want to let you play Legos again in the morning. So let's practice. What are you going to say when you're playing Legos when it's time to get in the car and go? Yes, Mom. Yes, Mom. All right, let's practice tomorrow. Let's give it a try. So I would just suggest that maybe those activities that they're engaged in, if it's a toy, if it's a video game, if it's a TV show, if they can't handle moving from one activity to the next while they're engaged in that activity, my suggestion would be the consequence is you can't participate in that activity for a short period of time until we can be successful at saying, okay, Mom. So that's my 2 cents for today. Again, let me know what would be helpful for you. Have a wonderful Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we'll be in touch again in January. Take care.